You might be wondering, when people talk about minimum wage, some other talking about living wage, and how the money that you have in your pocket can take you home. Those are some of the conversations that you hear a lot of the time. The issue of minimum wage became a major issue in 2018 until a point in time when President Muhammadu Buhari set up a presidential technical committee to look into that matter headed by Bismarck Rewane. Well, we'll be asking that man several questions tonight, and he'll be explaining a lot to us because the labor union and organized labor that is planning to shut down the system. Yesterday, they sent out a threat that they will shut down the nation should the idea of removing the national minimum wage from the exclusive list to the concurrent list come up. What does that mean anyways? Perhaps largely the concept of minimum wage would then be a matter of the federating units or the states, as we popularly know, will take full responsibility and take charge of what they can pay or what they should pay. Well, so the organized labor took this to the street across the country. The bill was sponsored in the House of Representatives by Honorable Garba Mohammed Dati, a member of the APC from Kaduna State. The bill has passed the first and second reading of the major 4 stages of legislation in the House 2 weeks ago. So, a nationwide protest by labor almost crippled activities across the nation on Wednesday, that is yesterday, and they promised more will come should the action not stopped. Meanwhile, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, gave the promise to jettison the bill while addressing protesting members through the leader of the House and who stormed the National Assembly complex to demand withdrawal of the bill. Tonight, we're looking at the sensibilities behind this proposition and the implication if the bill sails through. It then means that the state government will have to take charge and decide what the workers will take home as minimum wage. Let me break it down for you. The federal government, headed by President Muhammadu Buhari, signed the Minimum Wage Act after an agreement was made last year around April that 30,000 will be the minimum wage or the take-home for the minimum earning worker in Nigeria. And there seems to be some conversation between the state government and the federal government because the president said at the time that they needed to carry the governors along in paying this money. So a lawmaker has said, let the state government take charge by this legislation. What does this mean? We have the honor of hosting the chairman of the Presidential Technical Committee on Minimum Wage, as it was set up at that time. It was set up on the 9th of January 2019, and the report was submitted to President Muhammadu Buhari in March of 2019. And in April, 30,000 was agreed. Mr. Bismarck Rewane is the man we're talking about. He joins us now from Victoria Island area of Lagos. Thank you so much, Mr. Rewane, for joining us. It's about 2 years now when you submitted that document to President Buhari, advising him on the way to go, how we should go about it, what should be paid, and where these monies can come from. 2 years down the line, you're hearing this. How does this come to you?
A bit surprising, really, Sean. The reality is that we have to differentiate between the willingness to pay and the ability to pay. I'm not going to comment on the willingness of people to pay. All I can comment on is the ability to pay, where the monies are going to come from, and what provisions we made. Don't forget, we're a team of people, economists, and we worked very, very hard from January 9 to February 20th, and we submitted a report a few days after that. But I think it's important for viewers to understand how and what has happened to government finances ever since that time. And I would indulge you to put up the slide that shows the breakdown of the state-by-state analysis, which I would like to share with viewers this evening. First and foremost, let me make clear that in the year 2017, the total amount shared by the state governments in Nigeria was 1.7 trillion naira. That was what the fact that was shared. In the year 2018, this amount had increased by 43% to 2.5 trillion naira. And by 2019, it had gone up by 3.6% to 2.4 trillion naira. Now, in the year of the, the year of the pandemic, which is 2020, this came down slightly. But if you look at those slides properly, you will find that the average oil price in 2017 was $54 a barrel. In 2018, it was $70 a barrel. In 2019, it was $64 a barrel, and then it came down to $43 a barrel. But what is interesting, and I would like to take, we broke down these states into 4 categories. The highly populated states, which is Lagos and Kano. You find that Lagos was getting 89 billion naira a year as its allocation, and Kano was getting 65 billion naira a year in 2017. Lagos went all the way up to 119 billion, and Kano went to 84 billion. And this has continued progressively. And now let us look at the oil-producing states, which is Delta and Rivers. In 2017, Delta State got 111 billion naira as a total allocation, while Rivers State got 119 billion naira. Averagely, they were getting 9 billion naira a month. By 2018, the average allocation to Delta State and Rivers State was 17 billion naira a year. And this has gone up in 2019 after the minimum wage to 18 billion naira a month. Why? Because VAT increased by 50% from 5% to 7.5%, right? And by so doing, you can see that the total VAT collected in the Federation, of which 85% goes to the states, was 972 billion in 2017, 1.1 trillion in 2018, and 1.18 trillion in 2019. And this year, in 2020, which was a difficult year, it had gone up by 347 billion naira to 1.5 trillion naira. So the revenue profile of the states has improved because they're getting more VAT, 50% more. 2, the exchange rate at which the dollars are being converted for them had gone all the way from 306 to 380, so they were getting 70 naira more per dollar. And thirdly, the revenue, the subsidies that were being paid on petroleum products had been more or less reduced. So the profile of the state government profile and the federal government revenue profile was much improved, and therefore the ability to pay was never in question. In all, there are about 2.1 million workers in the federal, public, and civil service, and about 2 million workers in all the state governments put together at that time in 2019 when we were reviewing this. So we found out clearly that they had the ability to pay. We went from 18,000 to 30,000, and you couples were given 10% more than the minimum wages, which is 33,000 naira a month. I think it's important to note that. And that's why the other slide, which you're seeing now, will show you that total allocation went from 1.79 trillion in 2017 to 2.47 trillion in 2020, and it's going to go higher to about 3 trillion in 2021.
Okay, so Mr. Rewane, let's take a breather. And our viewers who are looking at some of the information that you have brought forward, which will give a lot of Nigerians understanding where the states are presently, whether they have the fiscal power to pay these monies or not. We'll take the conversation forward when we come back from this week. Don't go anywhere. Mr. Rewane will unbox some of this issue more for us when we come back. We'll be right back, everyone. First, before you go back to the breakdown of the state analysis on the total allocation and how things have gone over the last 4 or 5 years, for a lot of Nigerians who are wondering, concurrent or the exclusive legislative, what does this mean? Give us, in a summary, the fear of the people. Is it that the state government can now go back to paying what they want to pay if this law is enacted? Or what does this mean?
No, the law that the president signed in 2019 after our team submitted a report was that everybody in Nigeria, private or public sector, that employs more than 5 people must pay a minimum wage of 30,000 naira a month to its workers as a minimum, right? And that anybody who does not pay, anybody who pays less than 30,000 naira a month to any group of people more than 5 and above is committing a crime as far as the national minimum wage law is concerned. Now, the question as to whether it is a law that should be passed by the federal government or passed by the state government is not. As of today, it's a federal law, and it's binding on all all citizens, both in the private and public sector. And that's why I said I will comment on the ability to pay. The willingness to pay, even if you have billions of naira and you refuse to pay, that will be your own prerogative, but that cannot be allowed. You'll be committing a crime according to the Nigerian statute. So let me go back again a little bit. I talked about the highly populated states of Kano and Lagos. I talked about the oil-producing states that were getting 9 billion in 2017 a month, and now are getting 18 billion naira a month, 100% increase. Then, if you go to the others which do not have oil, Imo State was getting 3 billion naira a month in 2017. Imo State is now getting about 5 billion naira a month in 2019. In other words, in spite of the fact that the minimum wage has increased from 18,000 to 30,000, their revenue profile has increased by a substantially much more amount than their wage bill has increased. So they have the ability to pay. The states have the ability to pay. The federal government has the ability to pay. And that has been provided for in the appropriation acts of 2019, 2020, and 2021. In spite of the pandemic, you'll find that the profile of the revenues of Nigerian government, both at the federal and state level, is much more improved because subsidies have been reduced, VAT has increased, and also there are a lot of things in the cost-reflected tariffs that have actually improved the profile. The question is, what do you now do with the money you have earned? The Nigerian people are interrogating and saying that we want to know how you use that to improve education, improve healthcare, and improve other facilities for the people to get the benefit. And that's the question. And it brings you back to the critical issue as to minimum wage comparison with other countries. Yesterday, I heard Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Falana, talking about the US. And that's why you have this slide that says that Nigeria's income per capita, the average income of all Nigerians put together, is $2,300, while the income per capita in the US is $55,000. In other words, in the US income per capita is 23 times more than that of a Nigerian. If you live in New York and I live in Lagos, you are going to be earning 23 times more than me in terms of income per capita. But when we take the minimum wage in the United States, which today is $7.25 per hour, if I convert that into Naira in 20 working days a month, it comes to 27,000 Naira per month. 27,840 Naira a day. That's what the US worker gets, while the Nigerian worker gets 1,500 Naira a day. So the minimum wage in America is 18.5 times higher than that of the income per capita of similar country, that is between Nigeria and. But if it now goes to $15 an hour, which is what is being proposed by Bernie Sanders and others, you will find that the minimum wage in America will be 57,600 Naira a day. In other words, 60,000 Naira a day, which is 38 times more than the 1,500 Naira a day. So today we get $70 a month, while these guys are going to be getting $15 an hour. So in 4 hours, the Nigerian worker, the US worker would have gotten what the Nigerian worker would have gotten for a whole month. That puts it in perspective. So what do we need to do? The Nigerian worker has to increase his productivity. He has to increase his earning power and contribution. And the government has to also provide facilities that increases not only labor productivity, but total factor productivity. Without any of this, we are just spinning wheels and gathering wool.
So there is an information also, Mr. Rewane, as to whether the state, if they have the responsibility solely in this minimum wage, whether or not they have the capabilities. Perhaps you mentioned three variables, which leads us to the fourth slide on the total federal allocation, the VAT, and the oil prices. Perhaps if my producer can put that up. So our viewers, the fourth slide that shows the graph where we can see how that has gone over. Very good. Mr. Rewane, if you can speak quickly to this on how things have gone over the years and perhaps what an average worker should be doing at the moment. You said productivity, but how can they make that happen?
No, but you see, what these graphs tell you is that the profile of our revenues in 2017 was such that what we earned in terms of VAT what we ended, what oil price was, and what we allocated to all the state government. And you can see that in 2018, it went increased. Then in 2019, we then pushed up the minimum wage. And then we had the pandemic. But ever since then, you can see the increase because we've done certain things. The mobilization of taxes has improved. The subsidies have been reduced. The cost-effective tariffs are there. And also, you find that while we projected that there will be $28 a barrel in 2020, the actual price we got was about $43 to $53 a barrel. So the revenues are robust enough, not enough to say that everything is great, but at least enough to meet the minimum wage without batting an eyelid. And that is why the federal government was very clear after we submit our report, and we were given 4 weeks to submit the report. 1, no inflation. 2, no retrenchment. And 3, make sure that there's enough revenue to meet all our obligations. Those were the marching orders. And we did the best, a good team with us, and then we did our best to do it. But the truth is that it's important to set the record straight that nobody should say that the states don't have the money to pay. The states have the money to pay and can meet this obligation if they are willing to do it.
And perhaps a very good way to close the program, perhaps in 30 seconds, Mr. Rewane. Mr. Falana was telling us yesterday that about 18 states are in breach of the Minimum Wage Act. It shows that either, because you say they have the capacity to pay, but some of them are obviously not doing that. What should an average worker do in this sense?
I think the question to ask yourself is that the states that say they don't have the money to pay versus the states that have the money to pay, how many cars are in the convoys of these governors? How many workers are, what is the security vote of these guys? What are the priorities of those states? So if you can reorganize your activity, you will find that you have the capacity to pay at any point in time. In any case, the non-oil producing states, like Anambra State and others, are meeting their obligations as and when due. So those who are delaying the payments have other reasons, not because the money is not there.
Mr. Rewane, it's always a pleasure having you break down all of these for us. Sometimes it's very difficult to make sense of, but these figures are now making sense, and an average worker will now have the right decision or know exactly where to go. Thank you so much, Mr. Rewane, for your time tonight on the program.
Thank you.
And there you have it. We've broken it down for you to make the right decision as a citizen. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Sean Wakimale. Bye-bye.